Hey, everybody.
Hello.
Welcome to the Green Room YXE on May 19th, 2021. This is we're coming to you from Saskatoon, and this is our, I can't remember, 17th episode. So we're just really happy to be with you guys. We're live right now. However, we also have our past episodes at No YXE YouTube channel, so go check those out. And hello to everybody that's watching on recording as well. So we're going to get right to the show. I hope everybody had a great week. Our week was it was a hard week. It was a hard week. Let's just say that. Yeah. And my dad is in the hospital, and I hope that we're just sending him lots and lots of love. So let's just talk a little bit about music, because music always makes us feel better, right? And we're so excited for our show tonight because we have such a special guest, and I think so many people are going to be excited about this guest. So we're going to tell you a little bit in a little bit of time here. So let's just get right to music. So in the music news, when the music business opens up again, which is going to be hopefully soon, there might be a labor shortage, apparently, due to people having to find other work. So
and for all the musicians who forgot to play how to play their instruments.
Yeah, exactly. Well, live music was one of the hardest hit industries, and this has made workers, many who were laid off, or they had to change industries. So now that concerts are making a comeback, it's that people are afraid to come back to the industry just in case it shuts down again. So that's a problem. That'll be interesting to see how that all plays out.
Well, you know how hard it is to get a beer in some places already.
Yeah. Yes, for sure. So
short-staffed all over the place.
That's right.
I'm not making it.
So Alice Cooper is selling his prized Andy Warhol art piece at an art auction with an estimated value of $2.5 million to $4.5 million. Alice Cooper rediscovered the piece several years ago in the garage of his Scottsdale, Arizona home. The silk screen was given to him during some crazy years, and he forgot. He owned it.
Yeah.
By luck, he found it perfectly preserved, and it's this vibrant little red electric chair, acrylic, and silk screen on canvas from Warhol's Death and Disaster series. So pretty cool that he was just like, whoa, I forgot about that $2.5 million that's sitting there.
I don't know Warhol enough to know what the Death and Disaster series exactly is, but I may have to look that up after.
Yes. In other news, Jay-Z's Rock Nation is now partners with a greeting card company, American Greetings. Apparently, they're now doing little videos from an artist for people's birthdays and personalizing the greeting. There's one you can look up now where you can personalize a birthday greeting from Dolly Parton. So I don't know if this will be a big thing going forward. I don't know.
Well, when you say Dolly Parton and big ththing in the same sentence, it's
okay. My goodness.
Might catch on.
Whew. So other things in the news, the U.S. has now said that people who are fully vaccinated can ditch their masks under certain situations. So now there are a number of concert promoters and festival organizers that are going ahead with some events later this year, like Lollapalooza 2021 in Chicago, Riot Fest in Chicago as well. Firefly is an indie rock hip hop festival in Delaware. And you reminded me,
Americana Fest in Nashville is going ahead as well.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah,
so
great.
It's happening. Everything's coming back. Okay. And then last in the news, an odd one. 6 strands of Kurt Cobain's hair sold for $14,000 at an auction.
I think I had one of those in my soup. 6 strands of hair.
6 strands. Oh, that would be horrible. I would throw my soup out if I had 6 strands of hair in it.
Well, I wasn't talking about soup, but just
Oh,
even
okay.
6 strands of hair. That's like
Okay. They came from his friend who cut his hair in England. So, back in 1989. So hang on to that hair, I
I'd
guess, and
break them up
people
and
that you.
sell them as singles. Increase the profit.
So this day in music now, we're doing a bit of music history, and we're doing it Beatles history because of our special guest tonight. So in 1963, Please Please Me is #1 for the second week in the UK. Back in this is all on this day. In 1963, John and Cynthia registered Julian. In 1966, Rubber Soul spent its 24th week in the top 10.
Wow.
And in 1966, the band was in the studio recording Got to Get You Into My Life. And also...
Right, that was overnight, I think. And then they also recorded For No One.
There you go. That's pretty awesome. And in 1970, the U.S. Released the Let It Be LP and premiered Let It Be in New York
on this day
in 1970. Right on.
Wow.
So now this brings us to our special guest tonight. He is a dedicated Ringo fan from childhood and is now the world's leading authority on Ringo's Beatles era gear. He launched Ringo's BeatleKits.com back in 2006 as a gift to drum enthusiasts and collectors everywhere, and is now the primary resource for Ringo collectors and fans. He has been entrusted with access to the most important and valuable drums in the history of popular music. So we're very, very excited. Please welcome to the Green Room YXE, Gary Astridge.
Hello.
Hey.
Hello, Gary.
Hi, Leslie.
Hey, Gary. We're so excited to have you on. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. I greatly appreciate it. Very
thank you. And he's in Buffalo right now.
Okay, so you're in Buffalo. We love Buffalo. We've played there many times. And
So I heard. Yeah.
Lots of fun there.
Is that where you always have been? Did you grow up in Buffalo?
Yeah, I'm a lifer. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's an awesome place to be a
lifer.
It is.
It's a beautiful city. It's embedded in my heart, and just love it.
Everything. Yeah, there really is a lot of heart and soul to Buffalo, and we just know so many people there that are just amazing people. So
yeah, it's a big part of it.
So is that where you? Well, obviously that's where he was, but is it? What was your first exposure to the Beatles then?
Like most people my age, it was the Ed Sullivan Show.
Right.
And what was interesting is I was 7 years old. And I had not a care in the world about music. And on that night, February 9th, my family was celebrating my grandmother's 67th birthday, I believe. And everyone was all excited. And next thing I know, they all rushed into the room to watch a television show, and I'm just looking at everybody's reaction. And the Beatles came on, and I just couldn't believe the way all my aunts and uncles and parents were acting. And then when I started focusing on the program, I just got drawn in, and my for whatever reason, I laser locked on Ringo, and that was the start of it for me.
Wow. I don't know which appearance it was that I saw on Ed Sullivan, but I was just a little guy, and I'm kind of curious about when you're saying the reaction that all your relatives had and your grandma, because I was with my grandma at the time, and she actually laughed at them because of their hair.
Yeah.
And I thought that was kind of, even then, that's so old-fashioned, grandma. But but was it an excitement? Was the room full of excitement? Or was it,
there was a sense of excitement because that part of the family was English and Welsh, so they were very proud, and some obviously knew the songs, kept hearing them. I guess over the weeks prior, and there was the comments of those got to be wigs, and those type of statements. But it was a special moment. When you think about the people that did have a chance to watch it, it was a special time to be alive, to go through their whole career, which really went by quick.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
just that you mentioned your family that were, English, how they felt that pride in them. I wouldn't, even think of that because, people here were just like, what is this? But yeah, if you're from England, you probably were just like, yeah, guys, go.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
So falling in love with the Beatles then, and not that music. Did you get into any of the other Mersey beat bands from that?
No,
era?
it was just Beatles. That's
Beatles,
all I
huh?
cared about. That's all I. That was my world. And then the funny thing was, so around the same time, I just started banging on things. My parents told me that, they said right after that, the following day, you were banging on coffee cans. My father and mother said that they were looking for something to do for drumsticks. So my father took 2 wooden spatulas and cut the spoon end off. So those are my first sticks, along with Maxwell House coffee Maxwell House coffee cans. But so I learned to play drums. But along the way, what happened was I thought, why don't I have a Beatle kit? Why don't I have a Ludwig kit like Ringo's? So I bought one pre-internet, and it was in Pittsburgh. So when it got shipped to me and I opened it, it wasn't a Ringo kit. It was like a late 60s. So it had like a bowling ball wrap. It wasn't like, the wrap that Ringo had, that oyster black pearl. So that just made me do more research to find out, what he was really playing. And just through forensic analysis of photos and reading a lot of books and talking to a lot of people, it became a passion, and I started collecting drums, all specific to Ringo's. And at one point, I amassed a collection of all the drums, and it was like, now what am I going to do with all of these? So I created the website to share information, thinking, okay, well, if somebody wants to know about Ringo's drums, here's all of what he had. And if somebody wanted to have their own Ringo kit, the blueprint was there for anyone to follow. So luckily, to get to what happened magically, 2008, I happened to become friends with Ringo's drum tech, Jeff Jonas. And I met him, ironically, in Niagara Falls, Ontario. So we became friends. And in late 2012, I got a phone call from the Grammy Museum in LA. And they said, hey, we have something confidential we want to talk to you about. And they informed me that they had just signed an agreement with Ringo to do an exhibit on his life called Ringo, Peace and Love. And they said, so we asked, for some of his drum kits, and we thought he had Sullivan kit to mark the beginning of his career with the Beatles in the U.S. and his Maple kit to mark the end of his career with the Beatles. And I said, oh, that's fantastic. And they said, but we have a problem. Ringo gave us the go ahead and said, yeah, you can display those. So when they called Ringo's people in London, they said, well, we've got drums here, but nobody knows what's what. A lot of them look the same. We don't know what drum goes with what drum. We don't know anything about stands. So the Grammy Museum started frantically doing research, and all they kept coming up with was my website. So they asked if I would help. And that's how it started. So the first 2 kits I was involved with were the Sullivan kit and the Maple kit. And the funny thing, to tie it in, picture being in a room by yourself with security, not allowing anyone to have access except Jeff Jonas, Ringo's drum tech. And there I am disassembling the Sullivan kit. And everything was normal for me because I collected, and I'm used to seeing that type of wrap and dealing with that hardware. And then at one point, I just froze, and I just thought, this is the drum kit that changed my life. And I started crying. I'm just standing there crying, and I got a little embarrassed because Jeff saw me and he goes, "Garrett, don't worry, I get it." So it's been an emotional fantasy. This whole thing.
That's an awesome story.
No kidding. Yeah, because that must have just been like the pinnacle for you, like doing all this research and putting all this time into it, and then them calling you. Had you met Ringo before at all, or did you see them live? Or
I did, but it was superficial. And at the beginning, to be honest with you, I could feel people in Ringo's inner circle being cautious with me, of like, we don't really know this guy, what's his real plan, or what ideas might he be thinking now that he's in here. So I was always very conservative, very cautious. Whenever Ringo would come into a room, I'd hear his voice and I would acknowledge him, but I wouldn't, act stupid. But I learned, God, I'm not starstruck. You learn something new about yourself every day.
Mm-hmm.
So it was over time. I got to know him, and I did a number of projects that everyone in its own right is so cool. Just to have one of them done, in a lifetime would be a blessing for anybody. But I just involved in a number of things, even today. But I was involved in an auction that Ringo had in 2015, and he decided that he was going to auction off his first Ludwig drum kit that he had with the Beatles. And I got depressed, thinking, oh my God, just 2 years ago I put everything together, and now he's gonna sell it. And part of what's interesting is that when I went through documenting Ringo's gear, a lot of stuff was missing. I mean, some things I found over time, but initially when I documented everything, there was so little there that I said, besides drums, none of the drums had the front drum head on the bass. And so I proposed, I said, you know what? I've got all the correct hardware that you would need to make all 5 of your drum kits whole again. And I says, it's Ringo, it's the Beatles. You can't just say, well, here's what's left of it. Mm-hmm. So Ringo liked the idea, and he allowed me to do it. And so with the auction, Ringo just said that, he was trying to raise money for his Lotus Foundation charity. It's a charity that both he and Barbara are involved with. And he says, we want to give back. And I guess the Grammy or the Julian's auction house was looking for a wow factor. And so Ringo just said, let somebody else enjoy the kit. So if you're not aware, the kit sold in December of 2015 for $2,150,000 US, and it was purchased by Jim Irsay, owner of the Indianapolis Colts. And in November of the year, of that same year, which means the month before, Jim Irsay bought the Ed Sullivan bass drum head for $2,050,000. And so he has those, or he had them on display in his office. I was there a few times helping set things up, and I was involved in a documentary. But if anyone's interested, while I'm thinking about it, that drum kit that he owns, Ringo's first 1963 Ludwig Oyster Black Pearl kit, is on display at the Percussive Art Society Museum in Indianapolis. And I think it'll be there for a year. And it just went on debut, I think, April 7th.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah. Wow. That's crazy, eh? Lifestyles of the rich and famous. Going to buy Ringo's drum kit.
No kidding.
So I saw on your website that then this kind of, at first I was like, wow, seems like not a lot. But then you think how short we said earlier, how short really the Beatles were in popular music as an actual band that's still working together. Yeah. That he had 5 Ludwig kits.
Yeah.
Over that time period.
Yeah, and I was surprised to learn that he still had them. He actually had 6 drum kits that he used during his career with the Beatles, and the only one missing is the very first one, which was a premier drum kit made in England, and that was taken in on trade by the music shop called Drum City, and they just sold it off, and it's just gone to history.
Yeah. Wow.
Really?
To not know you have a
Yeah.
a
So
premier,
where is
it's
it?
I brought this as a '60s premier snare, and it's like actually Ringo's
Oh my
snare. Right?
gosh.
That'd be kind of
Yeah.
to not know that. But so he predominantly played one of those kits for the.
Yeah, he had with the Ludwig kits, he had two smaller kits. They were called the downbeat model. And Ringo told me, the same thing you read in books. He's actually, we did a photo and video shoot of all of the items that he was auctioning off. So I set up all of his drum kits in a room at the in a big room at the Beverly Hilton in Beverly Hills. So Ringo comes in, sees all the drums set up, and he got very emotional because he went right up to his the Beatle kit, and behind it was a big picture of the Beatles with Ringo sitting, with that kit on display. So Ringo just walks right up to the wall, and he looks up in the air, and he just said, "There's the boys. Will always be the boys." And I just started crying. I just thought, whoa, this is how it's going to go.
Yeah.
So what I would do is I would just fill him in and just say, Ringo, this is the drum kit that you used on a concert for George, or this is, and then he would go, yeah, you're right. And he would just start talking about it. But it was very special to be there, because when he sat down behind his Ludwig kit, I put a pair of drumsticks there so he could hold them as props. And he picks them up and he just starts playing. Wow. And everything's going through my head like, I don't believe this. I can't believe that he's playing the kit for the last time, and I'm watching him do it. And then I'm thinking, he's playing so loud in this big room. I think, what are people thinking out in the lobby? They're just like, who's that just banging away on drums? Not realizing. So it was so cute. But
that'd be funny if someone came in and said, "Hey, keep the racket down there," and it's Ringo on the drums.
How do you find America?
But the best part with all of those things happening at that point, and there was still so much that's happened in my life since. But I would once again Canada connection. I was with Ringo in Toronto at the I can't remember the name of the theater, but I'm backstage, and Ringo comes to the entrance door with a security person, and he's looking for me. I could just tell, and then he sees me, and he just comes marching over, and then he said, "Gary," he goes, "I wanted to thank you for all the research that you did." And he says, I learned a lot. And more importantly, he says, you brought back fond memories of things that I had forgotten. And it was so emotional to hear him say that. And since that time, we just connected. And he's been an unbelievable person to me when I'm with him. I think you can relate to this because you grew up with him. You feel so close. I could be walking with him, and I'm just, you feel like you're with your uncle, just somebody that you've known all your life. And the best thing I can say is that there was a point at the beginning where, I was wondering, God, am I ever really going to get to know him? And I started second guessing my whole situation, thinking maybe I don't want to know him. What if he's not a nice guy? Right. But he's a beautiful person, and I cannot stress that enough. And then physically, he's 80, going on 45. He's his mind is sharp. He's extremely funny, and very kind and extremely generous. Yeah.
Okay, so here's a question. So, is Ringo Richard, or is Ringo a stage alias? Public person.
His real name is Richard Starkey, and I just out of just who I am as a person, I would never call him what some of his close friends call him, and that would be Richie. But so he goes by either.
Yeah.
So it's one and the same. So
yeah.
some people have a stage persona.
But he just seems like such a
Ringo.
warm
Yeah.
person. Like if even when you listen to some of the interviews, I remember there was one interview I heard, and they had interviewed him, or just asked him a quick question. He just turned 64. So of course, an interviewer came up to him and said, well, how does it feel? Like, how does it feel to be 64? How does it feel to, be growing older? And he said, oh, it's bloody awful. And I just loved it because it was so real and honest, and it was awesome.
Was interesting was that without going into a lot of details, unless somebody calls in or whatever and wants to know more, but I asked, or I was thinking about asking permission for a crazy idea, and that would be to replicate a snare drum that Ringo used. It was called the Ludwig Jazz Festival, and his particular drum had some quirks to it, and is extremely rare on its own. There's not a lot of them out there. So I was creating a PowerPoint that I wanted to pitch to Ringo's attorney manager to see if he would allow me to make a small number of these drums. And it was partially a partially thought through idea. And so what happened was I took the PowerPoint. It was only 13 pages, and I emailed it to Jeff Chonis, Ringo's drum tech, and to Scott Ritchie, Ringo's personal assistant. And I just said, hey guys, look at this, tell me if I should just stop, or if you want to make tweaks, to make it more interesting, I'm open. And Scotty calls me and he says, what is this? Is this that project you were talking about, doing a snare drum? I said, yeah, I got it. I think it's a good idea, and we could raise some money for the Lotus Foundation. So he hangs up the phone, and I think it was like 45 minutes later or less, he calls back and he said, you're all set. I'm all set for what? And he says, build the drums. I go, what are you talking about? He goes, I showed your PowerPoint to Ringo. He goes, he was sitting in the living room with Barbara. I just slid next to him on the couch, and Ringo Scotty lives on the property. So he says, I showed him, he made a few suggestions, and says, do it. I go, well then, so what do I got to do? Go through the attorney? He goes, no, just make them. So I was put back on my heels, and I contacted Ludwig. They jumped all over it, and we made 15 snare drums called Star Festivals. And the sale price was $30,000 each. And the point I wanted to make with this was I wanted to give the first one of 15 to Ringo. And I called Scotty and I said, hey, I'd like to give Ringo one of the snare drums, and I'd like to give it him on May 12th of 2018. And Scotty said, that's a Saturday. That's not going to work. Find another day. And then I said, okay, I'll check. And he goes, why that day? And I said, because if I gave it to him on that day, it'll be the same day that he took possession of his snare drum that we're replicating 55 years ago, right to the day. So Scotty talks to Ringo, and he calls back and says, come to the house. It's May 12th. I hope I didn't make a mistake, but it's May 12th at 1 o'clock. So I went there. And I told Ringo, I said, there's a lot of details here with the case, with all the accessories, but they're all related to you and the Beatles. And then I go, so I just want to tell you what everything is, just so you know. So I go through it, and part of me was, I even told Ringo, I said, I'm a geek, so if I start rambling, just tell me to shut up. And he just starts going like this, like, well, shut up, and show me what's got. So when I went to pull the snare drum out of the case, I take the lid off, and drumsticks were part of the accessory. So he's holding the drumsticks, and as I'm pulling the snare drum out, he just starts wailing away on it, playing Back Off Boogaloo. And I'm like, I don't believe this. So we're talking. Barbara comes into the room, and she goes, "Oh, is this the snare drum that you did? Tell me about it." And I go, "Well, no, it wasn't me. It was a lot of people to make this happen, And so as I start telling her, Ringo takes over and he starts telling her everything I told him. So I'm thinking like, wow, he was listening. So he, at one point we're talking and he just said, I'm getting very emotional. And I said, what? He goes, I'm getting teary eyed. I go, and I was like, what? And then he just came up to me and he hugged me and he just said, thank you. This is exactly the kind of thing I wanted. He goes, thank you so much for doing this. And I just said, Ringo, I go, this isn't just me. This is everybody. This is just, you know, from all the people that just love you. And that just meant so much to him. And later on that night, I talked to Scotty. We were out to dinner, and I said, I can't believe the way Ringo was today at the house, you know. And he said, what? And I said, how emotional he was. And he said, you weren't with Ringo at the house today. He wasn't emotional. I said, yeah, no. I go, none of today ever happened. He says, Gary, today you were with Richie Starkey. That's him. And that too was just an emotional moment.
Oh, wow. Wow.
Wow. No kidding.
You know how cool it is to make a Beatle happy?
Yeah.
Right?
I just like,
They've made so many people happy.
but I'm just blown away by how this has all just happened. Like it's just all of your you know, passion and your love that you've put into everything, and just it all coming together and them finding you, and then it's blowing my mind how it's all happened. It's all purpose. You know what I mean? There's a purpose to it all.
I've given this so much thought, you know, and it just goes on and on and on from, you know, if you're a Ringo fan, you probably saw there's a video where it had a bunch of famous drummers all talking about Ringo, and it was on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. They actually aired it when he was inducted. You know, I was involved in that video. And, you know, behind the scenes, and I set up his drum kit at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And even after I did that, it was like I set it up after hours, and I had 2 helpers there, great guys. And the next morning, they invited me back for a tour of the facility before the doors opened. So I did that. And then I went back to the drum kit when the doors opened. And I just thought, nobody knows me. So I just want to see how people are going to react when they see the kit. And people just started going right up to it. One was a group of 5 guys in a band, and the drummer just drops to his knees and starts bowing to the drum kit. And some people were just, you know, putting their hand against the plexiglass and standing there crying. And I'm crying, you know, in the corner, thinking, you know what? You're touching the plexiglass. You don't know what it's like to actually handle the kit. So, but moments like that are just priceless, you know?
Yeah.
They are. It means so much. It just means so much to people.
It does. And it's, you know, lesson people. I mean, I know that, you know, you probably get a lot of gratitude for what you've done and what you're doing, but that gratitude will just be paid forward for generations. Because the Beatles always find a way to make it back into someone's heart or into the chart or somehow. We have a sponsor on the show. We're going to do a little ad, but before we do that, I just want to add, there's a couple of things. We were looking over some information last night, getting ready to talk to you, and that quote that you know, that Ringo said, because you kind of touched on it, because of your research, you know,
because of your research, I have learned things that I didn't even know, and you brought back fond memories of things that I had forgotten.
Yeah, that's touching.
It is.
But on the lighter side, I was to like Leslie. I said, I'd love to have a person like that.
I know.
All the things that I've forgotten. Can you tell me about that night? Can you tell me that night about when we played in Cleveland? You know, you were wearing this, and oh right, now I remember. Yeah, okay, that'd be awesome.
No kidding.
But we're gonna bring out some drummers who are Ringo fans, and we're gonna talk to them. We're gonna do this commercial. But one thing that I want to know, and I don't know where I heard this, but is Ringo's a left-handed drummer that plays a right-handed kit?
Yeah.
That kind of explains some of the way the fills kind of fall and tumble down, right? So that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Anyways, a word from our sponsor.
Okay, we're going to do a quick word from our sponsor, Field Fox Gardens and Cookery. Field Fox Gardens and Cookery is a food preparation and delivery service in Saskatoon. They are 100% gluten-free and organic and only use quality ingredients found close to home. Field Fox has just launched beef lasagna in 2 sizes. They are proud to partner with Saskatchewan beef producers in this carefully prepared classic meal that is delivered frozen for your convenience. In the coming days and weeks, the menu will grow to include more choices of frozen prepared meals to suit every lifestyle. Their products are soon to be featured at Saskmade Marketplace, which only sells the best local goods. So please visit fieldfox.ca to order your lasagna and sign up for the newsletter to be notified as soon as the menu expands. So
Right.
order that beef lasagna.
Order the lasagna. Sign up for the email, so small businesses thrive on that.
Yes,
Just like this local internet TV channel
that's right.
is looking for sponsors as
So
well.
no
So,
YXE. That's right.
No YXE. If you want to advertise on any one of the shows or on the whole channel, whatever,
Yes, that's
it's
right.
It's a small business just like yours. We'll help you. You help us, and we can grow together.
That's right.
Anyways,
Yes.
now we're back.
Now we're going to
We're back
bring
with
on, are we going to
Gary.
bring on drummers? Because this is
Yeah.
going to be so exciting for them to be able to ask
Well,
you
if it's
questions.
It's exciting for
Exciting
us.
for
and we're not
us,
even
but
drummers.
yes, now we have to share
Yeah,
Gary
share Gary.
with other people here.
We're so generous with your time, Gary.
Don't vote.
Yeah. All right, drum fill. Okay, so our first special guest tonight is a Saskatoon legend.
Mm-hmm.
He's kind of an archivist himself. He's shared many videos and stuff of us, our interactions with the Northern Pikes in the past. It is the drummer for the Northern Pikes, Don Schmid.
Yay! Don.
Yay! Hello.
Hello, look at him.
Hey, Gary.
He died.
So, I guess you guys met earlier in the backstage at the Green Room.
Green
So,
Room.
Yes, we did.
yeah, I noticed your beards are the same color.
We got that in common. Yeah.
Yeah, but so Donnie, you grew up in Saskatoon playing drums here, and I remember going seeing the Idols, and straight away I was like Ringo right away, and I just wanted I saw a quote from Steve Gadd that said, "Technique don't mean shit if you can't play a backbeat," and that's what it's all about, really. And when I saw you play back in the day, you blew my mind, and I want to know from you how much of an influence Ringo had on you.
Well, quite a lot. I mean, somehow I basically taught myself how to play the drums when I was in grade 8, basically, and would do it by listening to albums with headphones on. I would, sit on a couch and play on my legs to kind of get the coordination together, and then would go to the drum kit and sometimes, skip school and hang out in the afternoon. I had a friend, Dave Huggs, who was also a cool drummer, and we would, take turns playing songs. And with Ringo, I mean, somehow my style is very simple. It's like I try to drum for the song and not for, to be just for the song. And if it requires the simple groove, then that's just natural for me. And so it's, I found a lot of the Beatles music to sound reasonably simple, but yet you go to play it and it's not, it's not, it's everyone has a way to play and a unique style, and to try to emulate Ringo, like you say, Johnny, he's a left-handed drummer. So even Ringo says that he leads a lot with his left hand when he does fills. And it's odd too, and I guess it's a question maybe for Gary, is did Ringo ever consider playing left-handed like, Phil Collins, or like switch everything around?
As far as I know, no. I think part of it was because he didn't know that there was such a thing as a left-handed, kit. So he just adopted that, and then plus when they were playing out and when they had the times of him not having the opportunity to use his kit, but they would just have like a house kit, they would all be set up for a righty. So But whether he ever gave it a shot, I really don't know. But what's interesting, Don, is that once again, it's just something very special, to be standing just literally feet behind Ringo or alongside of him when he's playing, especially, well, for me, it would be during a sound check.
Mm-hmm.
You get to see all the little nuances and things that he does, and that would take a lot of time to go into, to geek out on. But there's that special thing, and I had a moment when I first realized it. Greg Bissonette was playing along with Ringo, and Greg's always funny. He would turn around, look at me, sticking his tongue out, while they're playing, and I caught something with Ringo's playing, and I said, Greg, I need to talk to you. We gotta be serious. And he says, yeah, go ahead. I said, I'm hearing the it factor, and the best way I can explain it would be if you took a guitar and you had three guitarists that all knew the song, the same song, and you could just tell them all, just play the song, and you'd have that one guy who has the it factor where it's just soulful and it's just wow, everybody just knows that there's something special there. Ringo has the it factor, and being a drummer is just something you pick up, on it, and it's magical. I mean, I know a lot of drummers where I just thought, oh my God, I could never do what he does. It's so easy. But Ringo, even though it sounds like he plays simply, it's all those little mechanical things that he does, and the way he plays that just oozes something very special.
Yeah. Last night I was checking out about you when Johnny and Leslie asked me to be on this show. And I went to your SoundCloud where you have Good Morning, just the isolated drum track.
Mm.
And I'm listening to it thinking, wow, Ringo's playing double kick drum.
Mm.
So I start looking around online, and I actually saw one picture of Ringo in the studio, must have been the Let It Be album sessions, where you can see the toms are off to the side of the kick, not mounted on them, normally between two kick drums, right? Snare, two toms,
yep.
Sometimes more. And then I saw a picture of Paul, actually a better picture where Paul McCartney sitting on a drum kit with two kick drums, two rack toms in the studio, the same one that Ringo was playing. So did he play like double kick for a while in the studio?
No, he just did it one time. But to back up to the first song you were talking about off of Pepper, there's some pictures out there where Ringo's playing the drums and Paul McCartney's off to Ringo's right, and he's playing the floor tom. And I think that's what that is, because I too thought it was double bass, but Ringo said no, he never did that. But the pictures that you're alluding to with Ringo and in that particular setup is kind of interesting, because a little bit of a story. As we all know, or most of us know, that John and George and Paul sanded the finishes off of some of their guitars based on something that Donovan told them, which was, hey, if you sand the finish off, the wood will breathe and you get a more organic sound. So this kind of got trickled down to Ringo, and that's when he ordered the maple kit with calfskin heads, and from what I understand, he was instructed, like, you got that wrap on there and it's just suffocating the sound. So he got it. But when the kit was delivered, it was the same day that the Beatles were going to record Glass Onion. And so I don't know if Paul was the initiator, but they tried setting up both kits. And Ringo just, it just didn't work out. So I don't even think anything made the tape to stay on, but that was his attempt.
Because I'd never seen a Ringo on a double kick drum kit ever.
Yeah.
Wow, interesting.
All-Star Band, he had double kits, double bass drums.
No, I did not know that.
That's so McCartney's a left-handed bass player, and Ringo would naturally be a left-handed drummer. How many bands does that happen in?
Yes.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. And yet when McCartney plays drums, he plays them right-handed.
Yeah, he does. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Do you think McCartney learned a lot from being in a band with Ringo on how to play drums? That was actually.
Yeah, there's a part of me that, to be honest, think that Ringo's made comments that when he was in the studio, every time he'd get off of the kit, either Paul, George, or John would be on it, but Paul in particular. And I think Paul gave Ringo a lot of advice of what he was hearing in his head, and then Ringo would just make it his own, and it's just a strong assumption just based on everything that I've learned, and part of the great process of doing things for Ringo, for me, is that it opens up the door to people that you would never expect you'd have access to. And even spending a lot of time with Hal Blaine, and which is just like mind blowing. But Ringo is just he's just a man on his own. He's just a unbelievable drummer, in my opinion.
Mm-hmm. When they were doing Abbey Road, like with Come Together, songs like that, where you can really hear the muting of the drums and the towels over the snare and the toms, did they come across that by accident? Like I don't recall knowing anyone doing it before that.
Yeah, no, I think that was always their striving for different sounds and just being creative. Because look at like earlier songs. Well, like if you go to the Help era, like Ringo had a snare drum tuned up way, really tight and high. Mm-hmm. And then you hear a song like Let It Be, where it's just so deep and meaty. Yeah. So, but it's just all part of the creativity, Yeah.
Well, that's got to be part of the whole Beatles thing, because if referring to the book The Love You Make, when they talk about even being in the studio with Magic Eric, right? Swinging the mic around to get.
Or Magic Alex, I think.
Magic
Alex, yeah.
Eric, Alex, whatever. Magic Alex, and then you're swinging the mic around the room to record, the guitar.
Yeah.
Invent a pedal that does that, right? So.
Yeah. The other thing that I thought was interesting, we know of the music video of Hello Goodbye, where Ringo's playing a Beatle kit, and he's playing a little toy kit, and then he's playing this big jumbo silver sparkle kit. Well, I just thought they were the small and the large are just bought as props, but Ringo told me no. He goes, I actually special ordered the silver sparkle kit. And you did. And he goes, yeah. He goes, I just thought big drums, big sound. So the funny part of the story, and he showed me because I had the kit set up, and it was during the auction, because the kit sold at auction. The snare drum was 20 inches around. So when Ringo sat down,
wow.
He said, so he goes, if I spread my legs, he goes, I couldn't operate both the hi-hat pedal and the bass drum pedal. And because the kit was just too big for him. So, but it had wear on the heads, and he said, we must have used this for overdubbing, So, but it's just interesting. It gives you all these little nuggets of information that to him just seemed like a little throwaway line, but yet it carries so much weight in history.
Yeah, well, that's got to be true. Hey, Donnie, all the things that we've done in studios probably were, the trickle down experience of the Beatles. I mean, Abbey Road Studios, those guys used to walk around in white lab coats.
Yeah.
It was a science, recording science.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
But I'm going to keep this moving. And Dawn, are you going to stick around?
Yes, I'll hang out. Yeah, it's great. Yeah.
Awesome. And jump in anytime, because this is going to be a Ringo drummer party. And we're going to bring out next one of a guy that we played with for years from Hamilton. His name's Bill Majoris, and he played in Universal Honey, but he's got his own group called the Foreign Films. And honest to God, the Beatles are ever present in Billy's music. So, and he's a drummer himself, a multi-instrumentalist, and here he is right here.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Bill.
Hey, Bill.
Welcome along.
I'm loving the conversation. It's absolutely amazing. I had tears in my eyes a couple times. The Ringo experiences, and so cool. It's funny. I had my drumming in actual house.
There you go.
Practicing my paradiddle
Perfect.
No, wonderful. And Don, love your drumming, man. Yeah, great. Nice to meet you.
Good to meet you.
Here we are. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, what an incredible experience. And like Johnny and Les, yeah, all these experiences, they do trickle down into the studio and all the little nuances, the experimentation, and it's such a huge part of my life. That's one of the reasons why I got into music, is hearing Ringo play. And when I was about 8 years old, I just got a toy kit and started drumming along to my mom. I was going to go buy Monkey's record, and the girl at the record store said, "Why don't you check out these guys? They're a bit cooler." And she handed me Revolver. I'm like, okay. So I'm like, oh, yeah, boom, get it, boom. I was going to ask you. Funny enough, I was lucky enough to do a few shows with Pete Best, which was kind of interesting.
Oh, yeah.
And there's a picture back here. I pulled it up, like drinking some beers with Pete,
Mm-hmm.
There we are, little Pete. And I got a chance. I said, well, how did you learn how to play drums, and who were your influences? And the answer almost made me weep. It did make me weep. I had to hold it back a little bit. But he said, oh, me and my mates, we just go down to the docks and get the blues and jazz and, the black record. I'm thinking, me and my mates? Like, you've got some pretty serious mates, And he said, we just listen to the records over and over again. Who are Ringo? Do you know who Ringo's? I don't know much about, sadly. Like, who were Ringo's favorite drummers, and how did he learn how to play? Do you know?
Yeah. Well, Ringo said that, and this is all documented too. So to get it from him is also like a big bonus. But Ringo just started when he was sick as a child in the hospital, and he had a very sad health history early on. But he said that a nurse would come by and just have a cart filled with like different musical instruments, for children. And Ringo always gravitated towards the drum, and then the first instrument he bought was a drum. And the one funny story that I heard was that kind of emotional one too. His stepdad, for Boxing Day, I guess he went down to, or for Christmas, he went down to his to see his family in Rumford, and while he was down there, he bought a used drum kit and brought it back. And when you hear the story, you're thinking, okay, wife's to walk to the train station, put it all on the train, get to Liverpool, and then cart it all the way back to the house. So, but Ringo got the drum kit and he set it up in his upstairs bedroom in small flat right out row houses. So he starts playing, and the neighbors are saying, well, I guess you can guess what they were saying. So he only played like twice, and it was like, I'm done. I can't practice anymore. So that's why he had the habit now of he doesn't rehearse. He doesn't like to practice. He just likes to play with musicians. So he was just getting it, making his mistakes live when they would be playing. And if you ever have the chance, I'm writing a book, and when you see the schedule for the Beatles pre US, these guys, there was such a passion that they worked nonstop, and if they weren't playing, they were driving somewhere. But and then when you hear some of the recordings on top of it, it's like, how do you do a schedule like that and have so much energy when you play? And yeah, so it was incredible. But your point is that there was a guy named Cozy Cole, a black drummer. And actually, I looked him up. You could find him on YouTube. He plays match grip.
Yes.
And, I just found that amazing. And I also found amazing, I can't remember the drummer's name, but the original drummer for who does get Good Golly, Miss Molly, Long Tall Sally, Little Richard, his drummer, has some similarities to Ringo. You can hear kind of the wash thing with the hi-hats. Yeah,
it kind of swings a bit on straight.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, a lot of swing. And so you can see those trademarks, Ringo from some of those guys.
Oh, cool.
Very cool. Very cool.
Well, Donnie and Billy, we all know about intense work schedules, and if you're not driving, you're playing, right? So
Yeah.
you know, I mean, that's what it takes, right?
Yeah.
it
It's a
does.
tried and proven success formula is to keep working at your craft. And
The,
you
the one
guys,
show that we played that that we were talking about on the last show, we'd done so many shows. It was such a, I barely remember that television show at all. It was so, but you know, it was like you could tell it was early in the morning, but I think we still had some pretty good energy somehow.
Yeah.
I know, we were on autopilot.
I'm tired thinking about it right now. But yeah, the energy. I was going to say too, I read somewhere, I was lucky enough to do a couple shows at the Cavern, and I didn't realize how many times the Beatles had played the Cavern.
Yeah.
Like what? Like, do you know the number? It was like over 100, right?
297 or 300.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
And I honestly, I thought maybe they played there like 20, 30 times or something.
Well, were they playing noon hour and evening, or just was it one?
Yeah, no, actually it would be both. Sometimes depending on the schedule, they would do a lunch show, and then they would play again that evening. And if they did, usually, you know, it could have been 2 nights, up to as many as 4 or 5.
Well,
Wow.
then that's not so great then. No, that's still,
you know, you touched on something, Bill. I have a band called the BBC Band, and we played at the Cavern.
Oh, cool.
And when we did, you know, we're all there, and you did the song, and as we're doing it, I'm crying and I'm sweating, right? And then I'm looking, and then, you know, the lead guitarist would turn around and look at me, and he's crying, and I'm going like, what the hell are people thinking? Like, you got these guys from Buffalo, and you saw them they're crying while they're trying to play? It was so emotional.
Yeah, I found it super emotional too. I really did. It was
that's what's great about guys from Buffalo. They you know, they like to cry a lot, and they're open with their emotions. So,
yeah. Hey, I wanted to share this briefly. This Saturday, if you guys have Sirius XM, the Beatles channel, my band recorded "In My Life," and it's they're going to play it during the noon hour Eastern time. So,
cool.
beautiful.
Oh, wow, that's
great.
awesome.
Congratulations, that's great.
Yeah.
Very, very cool. You know, it's funny, after playing at the Cavern, actually I did a show playing guitar at the Cavern. I played drums with my friend Dave Rave. He was on the show, right? Teenage Head Dave. And then I did some double duties. I played drums, and then later at night I did a solo guitar show. Afterwards, I got really emotional. I hadn't slept at all. I went, you know, up the stairs on Matthew Street. I'm like, you know, holy cow! I just played the Cavern, and like I had tears coming down my eyes, and all of a sudden, this guy, he's like, Bill, hello, Bill, is that you? And it's like it was the guitar player from Pete Best's band, right? It's like no one recognizes me in town here in Hamilton. I don't get recognized. Oh, okay. Let me pull it together. He's like, you okay, mate? You okay? I'm okay. So no, it's very emotional. It's such a great feeling, you know. Just the power. I was getting one other quick question too. Does Ringo? He's in such great shape. Yeah. Does he do warm-ups? Does he? I'm assuming he does he sit with his drumsticks before, or does he just cold?
No, none of that. He just goes out, just sound check, and that's it. And Greg Bissonet's the one doing all the exercises and everything beforehand.
Wow.
Yeah. So,
he just goes on cold.
Yeah, it just goes out cold.
That's amazing.
Yeah. You know what else is cool is like when they do the rehearsals, you know, the for sound check, all the band goes out before Ringo, and they plug in, they get set up, and Greg Bissonet gets up on his kit, and then Ringo just walks out. And the cool part when you see that, no matter who he's playing with, when you see the reverence that he gets, you know, even though they're all friends and stuff, and you could just feel the love. And Ringo just gets behind his kit, and then he'll just start the groove. He'll just start playing something, and he wants everything recorded, just in case there's some cool stuff happening that he might use and add to a song for an album in the future. But it's a cool experience to see and hear.
That's
That's
very
great.
cool.
That's a great idea. I think record everything you do. That's gotta be. That's gotta
Truman
be
Show.
tough.
Yeah.
And then I can get somebody to go, what was this recording again? But no, well, Billy, do you got to run or are you going to hang out?
I'm okay. I'm good. I'm loving the conversation. No, I'm good.
Okay, cool. So then we're going to bring out a local musician here from Saskatoon, a guy named Kevin Sick, who plays in a band called Riff Raff. And I got to know Kevin from, seeing him play and hanging out in the bars with him. And the first time I went to his house, I was like, wow, you got all this Beatles stuff. Are you a Beatles fan? He goes, oh yeah, of course I am. And so here he is right here. Is Kevin Sick.
Kevin Sick.
Hey,
Gary,
Kev.
Donnie from the Pikes, Bill Majoris from Foreign Films.
Nice to meet you.
And of course,
wow, this is amazing to be involved in the Green Room YXE and all these amazing people. Like, thank you for having me on.
yeah,
Thank you for coming on.
Ken.
Yeah, this is so much fun to do this.
Any Ringo questions you have, or any curiosities about the man and his drumming that you want to,
Yeah, I think. Well, I got a question for Gary. I guess being such a Beatles fan and playing in the BBC, of course. What is your favorite Beatles song, and what's your favorite Beatles song to perform?
I think everyone that's also a drummer will say the same thing. For me, it just depends on my mood. It depends on what maybe the band is learning. Because many times when you dive back into songs that you've heard all your life and you think you know them, then you really listen hard and it's like, oh my God, every one of these feels is slightly different. And then you try to emulate that because you can't do it exact. But it's just a pleasure just to try to understand the songs, and then even if you can semi-nail the tune, then it's just like, oh my God, my hi-hats don't sound right, or it never ends. But I just love them all. Because there's something to be learned from everyone.
Cool. One other thing too, I was maybe wondering was, what's your favorite Beatles album?
I like the early stuff because they really swing and they're just fun to play. But I also like the challenge of Abbey Road, Let It Be, albums. They're all good. I mean, I'm very prejudiced with that, but I just love it all.
Well, cool.
Yeah. One thing I want to mention briefly. This is you talk about Beatle fans. I got an email a few days ago from a funeral director, and he said, "Hey, check out this picture." He goes, and it was just like a graphic, and he said, this woman is getting buried, and she's a big Beatles fan. And do you do that in Canada, where you would take a casket if you're being buried in ground, and then you would actually have like a cement vault that the casket would go in, and it has like a cement lid.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
so he said that she was having something put on, and he goes, "Show this to Ringo," and I'm going like, you got to do better than that. It's like you could be making this up. So I said, okay, I go, if it's respectful, get pictures. So I'm gonna try to do this, and this will be very quick. But he sends me this. This is the
okay.
all right, and then wrong way. Sorry. There's the vault lid. Can you make that out?
Admire.
Yeah, so I'm thinking like, oh, she beats me. Sorry, but I can't show Ringo that. But it just shows you how crazy people can be.
Lifelong fans, that's for sure. Literally.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I got a question here. So all of you drummer guys, like of all the drum solos in the world, right? Like I've seen Neil Peart live 6 or 7 times, and I've seen his drum solo, which is amazing. but there's one drum solo in particular that never leaves your mind as me as a bass player, but even just as a music fan, and that's Ringo in on Abbey Road at the end, right? That short little drum solo is short. It's just perfection, I think. And would you guys say that there's something better than that as a drum solo that you would go? And don't worry about our feelings here tonight. But just
Oh, I totally agree with you. There's just something. It's each of them are kind of. It's a great. It's like the final scene to an amazing movie or something, and that's his little moment in the spotlight. I get chills thinking about that. All that. It's just so great.
Mm-hmm.
So great. Love it.
And you can actually, when you listen to that, you can hear squeaking of, like, I don't know what it is, if it's the kick pedal or if it's the toms, the way they're going, but you can actually hear him playing, like the sound of playing drums. It's the coolest thing.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, that's the one thing I always remember too with Ringo. It seemed like he was moving and the whole kit was moving with him. Like,
those
you know what
risers.
I mean? You see some drummers that play and will play the crap out of their drums, but the drum kit's not moving with him. It was like it sways with him. It's.
I think you must have been talking about when they played in Washington D.C. in 1964 after the first Beatles or Ed Sullivan show, and a little round riser.
Round riser, and he gets off and helps turn the riser around.
Yeah.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
Right.
It's just classic. Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, love it.
Yeah.
Gary, like with percussion, all of us drummers, do percussion as well. So I was always wondering, how much do you know about who thought of all the ideas? Well, even drum ideas, like, and then you said Paul would say a lot of things to Ringo because Paul knows a bit about grooving and that. So, like some of them, like I said before, they sound so simple, but they're not. It's like well thought out simplicity, if that even makes sense. But did he, like, for percussion, I know George Martin did some stuff too with that and piano playing, but like, did Ringo do most of the percussion?
Yeah, he really did. There was a handful of songs that he wasn't involved with, like back in the USSR, Dear Prudence, the Ballad of John and Yoko, and the one thing I haven't questioned him on this, but recently there was something in the that came out saying that Paul played drums on Old Brown Shoe, which a lot of drummers, myself included, find hard to believe, especially with the fills that are so Ringo-y. So.
Yeah, especially the floor tom snare.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because that's so is difficult to do, and he just he pulled that off so easy. I just couldn't recall doing that.
Interesting. Yeah. Cool.
Did Ringo have any particular favorite? I actually saw him on Cobain the other night, and he mentioned if there's one song he could hear over and over again, he said, "Come Together."
Yeah.
And do you know if he has any particular favorites?
No, actually, with that, I really don't. I know he's proud of his work. Who wouldn't be? But I really don't know. One thing I wanted to mention, I think you could find it on YouTube, but I was with Ringo, and sometimes when I have the chance to hook up with him, I'll bring something from my collection that was exact to what he used, just to help stimulate his memory and for me to get some one-on-one information from him. And so I brought a set of Ludwig bongos, and they were like from the late 50s, early 60s, and very strange. They're like tunable bongos, like rototoms. And they had calfskin heads, and they were made of like a white powder coated aluminum. So I show him the bongos, and he sits down and he starts playing them. And then he starts saying, "Hey, name a Beatles song with bongos." And then he says, "Greg," meaning Greg Bissonette. He said, you got him on your phone, right? And then, Ringo says, he goes, "We talked about that on the plane." He goes, I played bongos on 16 songs. Like, really? I never counted them up. So Greg starts naming off songs, and Ringo just playing bongos, and then he does I can't remember the name of the song, but he does one song. Greg's singing. He goes, Gary, sing. So I'm singing, and Ringo's playing bongos, and then next to him is Steve Lukather, Toto. And so one of the road crew, they're all standing around, and somebody takes their phone and starts videotaping it, which I guess is a no-no. But Ringo saw it, let it go, and then after the fact, Ringo asked the guy, he goes, let me see that video. And everybody just thought he's going to take it. And Ringo liked it. And then he actually posted it on his Twitter feed saying, hang in with friends. And then there's this clip, and it was like, wow, how cool is that? So, not only to have that documented, but to walk away with a pair of very rare bongos played by Ringo.
That's amazing.
Wow. Yeah,
that's so great.
Hey, I got a question here. So all you drummers, you know that you play to the room, right? So, whether it's like a small club and there's no PA, or you're playing in a larger room with a PA, or you just got to play louder. You know how to control that intensity and play to the room. Now, Gary, was Ringo was he? You see them playing like Shea Stadium with like a couple of microphones, hanging, and no monitors. Was he like a loud drummer? When you hear him play, was he like excessively loud? You guys know what I'm talking about. There's guys that are exactly. Really loud, right?
Yeah. I every time I've seen him, he just always has the same intensity. So it's not like he's dialing off. But once again, just a part of his playing, he holds the sticks rather loosely, but he's got a lot of power behind it. And when you're there, watching him, it's like, yeah, he actually, I mean, he's not a killer kind of a hitter where he's going to be putting a stick through, but he does play with authority.
Right.
It's interesting. I heard years ago, I got to know Giles Martin a little bit, and super nice, super lovely guy, really funny guy too, actually. And he subsequently, when he's remastered the White Album, I saw in an interview he was talking about how he was struck by, I'm not sure exactly how he figured it out, but he realized that the Beatles were quite a loud live band. So when he was remastering the White Album, he'd actually set up live speakers in the room, feed them back through, crank it up, and feed a little bit of that live sound back to give it almost to make it feel like, oh, I'm back in that actual room with these guys really kicking it out pretty hard. I was kind of struck by that. I thought,
but I guess when you think about it, with their upbringing, starting at a very, very young age, they had to play loud, right? Because with the systems that they had then, right? I mean, the drums that they weren't mic'd, and you just had the amps and then whatever the PA system happened to be. So I think that kind of instilled their playing volume and how they played.
One other specific question: when with the drums generally, like I know you said that they've varied a little bit. Like in Let It Be, he's tuning lower. Some of the early ones, does he tune if he's playing live? How tight are his drums tuned? Is he tuning the toms pretty high generally?
Not high. I'd say a little bit higher than medium.
Okay.
But but his snare is always very open, very ringy.
Right. And not a lot of dampening. Pretty open sounding.
Oh yeah, pretty open. Yeah.
Drum, any padding in the bass drum?
No, it's all wide open. Yeah.
Oh, okay, interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, and actually, even the bass drum he uses is a 24 by 14.
He's using a 24.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, and the snare drum's a 6.5.
Wow.
So
very cool.
And whenever he plays too, if Ringo's using like right now, I know he's been using like a chrome over brass Ludwig, and so if he's using that, Greg will use a wood, same depth, 6.5.
Oh, amazing.
So
I love hearing bits of information like that. That's great.
All the Beatle kits were 5.5 though, right?
Well, snare was 5.5. Yeah.
Okay.
So, you have time for one more quick story?
Yeah, you got a quick story?
For sure.
Yeah, this this is a cool one. I get a call in January of last year, and it was from Scotty's or Ringo's personal assistant, and he said, "Hey," he goes, "we heard that Ringo's crosswalk jacket, the jacket that Ringo's wearing on Let It Be or the Abbey Road cover." The guy who owns it's thinking about putting it up for auction. He goes, "Ringo would like it back." I said, "Yeah." He says, "Well, you know who owns it. Talk to him." And the short story is, I talked to the guy, and he says, "I bought this as an investment." And I hang up the phone, thinking, okay, I keep calling him, and I'm not getting anywhere. And just by chance, a friend of mine calls that at the time knew Ringo, but not well. And he says, "What's up, Gary?" He goes, "You don't sound right." And I said, "I got to tell you something in confidence." So I mentioned this to him. So he says, what does he want? What does this guy want for it? And I told him. And then he said, "Just call him back and buy it." I'm like, "Yeah, you call him back and buy it." And he goes, "I'm going to buy it." He goes, "We're going to buy it." I go, "What are you talking about?" He goes, "Give him what he wants. And then you and I and Scotty, we're going to give it to Ringo as an early birthday gift for his 80th birthday." I go, "Are you serious?" So I call the guy, negotiate, get it for a lesser amount than he asked. And in February of, I guess it was last year, we went to Ringo's house and said, "Hey, I've got something for you." So what was the little funny thing about this is this guy spent a boatload of money to buy the jacket. And when we got to Ringo's house, he's waiting outside. He sees me, and then he goes, "Gary," so gives me a big hug. And then this other person, Robert is his name, he comes up to Ringo, puts out his arms, and Ringo backs up and goes, "Elbow bump." So, and I'm thinking, oh my God, if Ringo only knew what this guy did, he wouldn't be doing that. So Ringo takes the box, and then he opens up the lid, and then there's really fancy tissue paper covering the jacket. So Ringo just looks at it, and he looks at us, and he says, "Oh, so you got me a box of tissue paper." It's like, no, come on, so he moves it, and he goes, "Oh, you got me a black jacket." And then we're like, "Ringo, that's your jacket." And he's like, "It's not clicking." And I'm going like, that's history, And so he pulls it out, and it just unfurls. And then we're going like, "That's your Abbey Road jacket." He goes, "It is?" And then so he puts his arm through, and he says, "I've got short arms. This fits. This is my jacket." I go, it is your jacket." So he puts it on, and then he's speechless, which is weird. There was two other people there that just said, "That's not Ringo. That you just." No comebacks, nothing. So he starts walking with it, and then we start walking behind him, and then he says, let's walk like we're crossing Abbey Road." Into the driveway, and guy takes a few pictures, and Ringo says, "Thank you," and then he disappears. And then I said to Robert, I said, "Well, I guess that's it. You happy with that?" And he goes, "Oh yeah." I goes, "This is great." And what we found out was that Ringo went in the house, and he was crying, and he was looking at himself in the mirror wearing the jacket, and he goes, "Why would they do this for me? I can't believe that they did this for me."
Oh, wow.
And then he gained his composure, and before he did, Barbara came out, and then she looks at me and Robert, and she goes, "You two made my husband very, very happy. Thank you." And he came out, and he was so gracious, and he gave Robert a big hug, and but he was like he was so happy. So to be able to do that for his birthday, and especially considering the way that the year played out with COVID and stuff, it's just
no kidding.
It was just great. And it actually, then I went out there for his birthday, and because of COVID, I ended up being one of his bodyguards. So yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he's doing good. Is he doing good though?
Yeah, he is.
Yeah.
So you, in essence, have become kind of a conduit for any sort of history. You're like, people like, this guy's accessible. I can maybe talk to him about buying Ringo's jacket or something. So that's pretty cool.
Yeah, well, it's funny, yeah, because we're doing this. I guess I'm just known now, so it's opened a lot of doors, but I don't take advantage of it. I respect it, and I'm always very conservative, and so it's just worked out well. And actually, I'm working on a project right now. I can give you a little sneak peek of information. Did you know that Ringo had a casting made of his hand giving the peace sign?
Nope.
No.
So he did that some years back, and then he actually had a sculpture made of his hand, one made of bronze, and then he had that on his estate in outside of London, and he had another one made of stainless steel, and he donated that one to the city of Beverly Hills, and it's big. It's like 8 feet tall, 4 feet wide.
Wow.
It says peace and love on the bottom. So me and Robert proposed an idea to Ringo. He said, hey, because Ringo's so serious about peace and love, and we pitched the idea of that someone originally had, but it just kind of fell to the wayside. He said, what if we could do peace and love parks in the U.S. and around the world, and we'd have a specific plan, and we could sell these hand sculptures to raise money for the Lotus Foundation, his charity. And so he said, yeah. So here in Buffalo, it just so happens there's a company that does fiberglass work. So we're having some of the hands made of fiberglass, and one's almost ready to ship. And what we're doing is we're going to send that one, the very first one, to Ringo, and he's going to paint it. So it'll be Ringo art on a Ringo peace hand. And
Wow. That's great.
a lot of money. But if there's any city, any community, any venue that would be interested, go to my website or contact me, because this is when this rolls out, it's going to be big. Yeah, it's going to be big. And
Love that idea. Beautiful.
That's
Yeah.
awesome.
It
Hey,
is.
so guy, anyone out there listening, looking for, this is going back to your other story, Gary. Anyone looking for a band name? Crosswalk Jacket.
That's
That's a good band name. It's Beatley, and it's it has a
Yeah.
story behind it.
That's right.
Crosswalk Jacket. I have a couple of questions now. Ringo's relationship with Ludwig, was it like he traded in the Premier kit at the record store and got Ludwig because it was available, or was there already a relationship beginning with him? And did the relationship start after he started using Ludwig drums, or was it something that was before, that he just was offered the opportunity to represent Ludwig?
Yeah, no, the way it worked out, according to Ringo, what he says is that he was looking to upgrade his drum kit. He and Brian Epstein went to Drum City, and his first Ludwig kit, it was there. It was in the showroom. So he just said, I want it. And so that's what he bought. And from everything that I've done in research, I asked Ringo, I said, you know what, your snare drum is so weird. And I said, I got the dates of when you purchased your drum kit at Drum City, which was in April of '63. And I says, but your snare drum has a stamp date inside of it saying April 18th, 1963. I said, so the snare drum couldn't have came with the drum kit when you bought it. I go, so is it possible that you turned down the downbeat snare drum, which would have been a 4x4? And Ringo said, yeah, maybe. He said that I wanted a deeper sound. He goes, so that's why I went with what I had. And so I said, okay, that explains a lot. But Ringo just liked Ludwig, and he was excited because it was an American kit. And it wasn't. And then Ringo bought the Ed Sullivan kit. And then it wasn't until after that Ludwig jumped on board, and a gentleman by the name of Dick Shorey was made the liaison between Ludwig and Brian Epstein and Drum City. And so they provided Ringo with all of the drum kits from that point on, and that's when Ringo went to the Super Classic. And I also learned that when they gave Ringo their first kit, or the first kit that they gave him, was when the Beatles were getting ready to do their first world tour. and they were concerned that, you know, Ringo's playing a small jazz kit about amplification and getting the sound out. So I didn't know this, but Ludwig was sending Ringo different drums. They even sent him a 24 by 14 bass drum. And Ringo just decided just to go with the super classic model and just stuck with that. But there's so many little hidden stories that were that I've discovered that are just absolutely amazing.
Right. Okay, so I got another question. On your website, there's a picture of Ringo's snare, and you guys would know, like, it looked like it's been the shit's been played right out of it. Like there's parts of it where it's gray, black, and then there's parts where that outer skin is kind of gone, and it's just the sort of translucent white. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, Gary, but were the Beatles like? And you get into the modern era of rock and roll excess, you know, 80s, 90s, where, you know, I don't know how often you guys were changing your skins on your drums, but, you know, I would change my bass strings every other gig just because, you know, not because they needed to, but just because I could. Were the crew back then, were they really right on top of that, or was that more his responsibility? And did it just, that was the sound of the snare getting old, and that was what it was? Or
yeah, Ringo never changed heads unless he had to. The bottom head on his snare drum was the original from '63. The top one was changed. It was a calf skin. But and just through photo analysis, I've seen that, you know, he had changed the snare drum head a number of times. But you just made me think of something. When I took the snare drum apart for documentation, since it's never been touched, and it looks like, other than maybe just the top brim, you know, being removed to replace the head, there was nothing but dust, you know, and dirt. And so we carefully got it all out on a piece of paper, and then, you know, got it all together, put it in an envelope. But we were saying, oh my God, this is like beetle dust. How much is this? Everywhere, you know. So I even had the idea, and I said, why don't we ask Ringo if we can just take little tiny vials and we can put some in there, and we can sell that along with the Star Festival snare drum. He goes, he's gonna think you're whacked, you know. So
I think I got one more question. Do you guys have anything else?
I got one more quick question. Yeah. Well, just does he typically still, in the early days, would he set up his own gear, or these days is his stuff just set up and he walks on? And
oh yeah, everything's set up. Even when he joined the Beatles, he was just expecting everything just to be set up. So yeah, so he was taken care of by Mel and
nice,
and the crew. Yeah. So
right on.
Oh, very cool.
Okay. So last week we had on the show Canadian music PR person named Eric blogger named Eric Alper, and we talked briefly about the Jackson movie coming out, and we were kind of like going, like, Eric's point was, like, you know, you think of Let It Be as being like, wow, really dark and gloomy period in the Beatles history, but all the footage that the Rolling Stone released like about a 6-minute montage of clips, and they were just happy and joking around and having a laugh, and it was like, that's not the Beatles that I think of when I think of Let It Be. You know, what's going on? Was that sort of like, was there a lot of, you know, was it a real? It was presented as at the end of the Beatles. It was the breakup of the greatest band ever. But, you know, you see that footage of them all being happy. Now, do you know, was that what was it? Was it happiness, or was it?
Were they really happy?
Yeah.
Well, that I guess only those four guys and whoever was around there will know. But I do know that there was 54 hours of footage to be gone through. So you know, maybe it's just turning it into a positive spin. You know, I don't know, but I do know, you know, from what I've heard, that there's a lot of really cool footage. You know, they're very upbeat, very happy, very, very, very interesting. And I know a lot of people like us would probably want to watch all 54 hours.
Yeah.
One of the things, Johnny, that Giles Martin said when he was going through the remastering the White Album, and he said he was surprised at how many laughs. Because again, another time period where people were thinking of it. Oh, they're working almost like a solo album. Four guys within one. But they demoed for that song or for that album, and he said it was just tons of laughs. That was the biggest shock, is how much fun they were having, and I guess probably like brothers, right, with just some fights here and there, but like overall, and maybe it's the same with Let It Be. I'm not sure. It's interesting.
Yeah, when you think about it, I mean, those guys were so close. I mean, you just the way they traveled right to in a hotel room. It's not like anything that would be done today. They just they started out with nothing, and I mean, if you look at what they accomplished, it's just absolutely amazing. What a story, huh?
One other quick overall comment, Gary. I think from a historical point of view, it's so important what you're doing. I mean, that backbeat that started. I mean, it really did. It started such obviously a musical revolution, and the fact that you've documented each and every one of those drums with care, it gives me goosebumps. I think that's such an amazing.
Oh yeah, it's an honor. It really is, because they're just like music history to write. It's a lot of Thank God they gave me the latitude to do what needed to be done. And I'm not a professional, in any way of, like say if somebody was working at a museum, but I was reaching out to a lot of people to say, how do you handle this type of thing? What do you do? And then most people would say, well, can I help? It's like they would never be allowed. So the trust factor too is just absolutely, it's hard to believe. To me, it's normal now. But when you just think about what anyone would do to be in the position that I'm in, it's just amazing. And as far as the book goes, I'm working on it. It's slow. It's a tedious process. But the most frustrating thing for me is wanting to get everything right, because it'd be nothing worse when you're really anal about something to have it be published and put out there, and next thing you know, it's like, hey, Ringo had this, and it wasn't what you put in your book. I mean, that would probably put a gun to my head. But that's the hard part. Just want to make sure that I get it right.
Yeah,
for sure.
Well, guys,
is this the end of part one, and we start part 2 in a half hour?
You know what? I just got to say that, and I think that it's a privilege to be able to hang out and spend time talking with musicians, and that's a gift that music has given to all of us, is that sort of kinship and that bond, and being able to share something like the Beatles with all of you guys, and have Gary tell his story of it is a part of all of our lives. And I think that anyone who's watching tonight and has stayed watching this long probably feels the same way. And Gary, Billy's right, and Donnie and the guys here, the work that you're doing is important, and it'll be in the history books forever and ever, because there's a time in everybody's life to fall in love with the Beatles. And I know people now say, no, I don't listen to the Beatles, I never liked them, but there will be a time when the Beatles are a big part of their life. There's no doubt about it, I think.
For sure.
Yeah, but thank you so much for having me on, and every one of you. I could tell we'd be fast friends if we were close.
Yeah. Well, that's what's so great about it, is just hanging out. We could probably talk all night, and maybe we should. Billy's close to Buffalo. Donnie gets out there sometimes, and we have friends there. So Kevin, you got to come along. We'll hang out in Buffalo one day.
Kevin, you got to come.
And
we'll come record everything, so we get everything. You don't miss anything.
We'll set up a bunch of drum kits,
exactly,
and I'll make you listen to me play them all. But no, anyways, thank you guys so much. I love each and every one of you.
Thank you. It's been so awesome.
Yeah,
it has been.
We could keep talking forever, but
yes,
I think
we could.
I do have one
pleasure. Amazing, Gary.
Gary, I do have one quick question, Gary. during the White Album time in '68, there was a period when Ringo actually quit the band for like, I think, a week or so.
Yeah.
He thought that his drumming was inferior and just he didn't really feel in a positive frame of mind. Have you ever chatted with him about that period?
No, actually, I haven't. No, you know, just to keep it brief because of time. What I do is I don't like interrogate or question Ringo.
Yeah.
I'll just say something and then he just starts talking and giving information, and then I use that. I don't try to direct it a certain way unless he's really off with with what his memory is.
Yeah.
And that gets a little uncomfortable sometimes, when he it's another story for another time. But when you have to correct him and other people are around looking at you like, you said what? But I think with me, Ringo appreciates my honesty and directness. So
cool.
Yeah.
Awesome.
On that note.
And just on one more parting note.
Oh my God!
They go on and on. But the one thing that was said earlier, and I think this is so true, and I've the magic about Ringo, and you got to shut me up because I'll talk about this all night. But it just his playing sounds like nature. It sounds so, and then you go to play it. It really, really is It's challenging. I feel fine. Every song is so, and for the song, it just serves the song, and man, just to see those drums and to experience them the way you did. I'm just reiterating what I said, but thank you so much. It's just a pleasure to talk about that. It's it's a treasure trove. It's really great.
Yeah, thanks. I appreciate it.
Ian, one quick throw up the picture. Warren couldn't get on tonight, but the drummer in our band, Tucker Lane, here had a picture. You got it, Ian?
Oh, there we go.
Cool.
There's
nice.
Yeah.
Hey, another little secret for everybody is that the snare drum, the Ringo's famous snare drum, is not with that kit. When Ringo, realized that he still had it and stuff, and then the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame got permission to send it. I was told, okay, when you go out there to send it up, I'm fortunate enough to have a 5.5 jazz festival, so I used mine and set it up with Ringo's kit and just put like a tea towel over the top. And once again, the cool part for me is I just thought it was awesome that I was able to do that. But then I had someone that's like a collector of drums just said, you know what, your snare drum now has pedigree because it was on display and it was actually with Ringo's kit. So I actually took pictures of all of Ringo's kits with my snare drum. So yeah, it's a lot of cool backstories. So
yeah, that's so wicked.
We got some
very cool.
We got some comments here tonight.
Yeah,
we have some comments come in. Rodney, the questions that you're posing here were answered, so you're going to have to go back and spend some time with us.
Short answer.
Yeah, spend 5 hours.
Yeah, the short answer would be it was the kit that was in the showroom that began his relationship. And Jay Semko, one of my idols and bass mentors, plays in the Pikes with Donnie here. Great show, love this. Thank you. Well, thank you, Jay. Thanks for listening in. We had a good night tonight.
Yeah, it was awesome.
And Kevin K, unbelievable show. Thank you, Jeremy, Johnny, Leslie. Truly amazing. There's KK, K2. Here we go. So, well, I'm sort of compelled to say goodbye, but I'm fighting myself to do it.
Yeah, we don't want to say goodbye.
This could be. Maybe we should try. Hey, you guys want to go for a world record? Longest show
webcast,
longest podcast talking about Ringo ever.
Is this one of the longest podcasts you've had?
Where are we at? Yeah, it's
140
there. I think it is. Yeah, it is. So
yeah,
it's in the record books already.
Doesn't feel like it though.
Yeah.
Doesn't feel that long. So
time flies.
it's been awesome.
We got so many great people here. This is awesome. Anyways, Billy, Donnie, Kevin, Gary, thank you guys.
Yeah,
You know,
thanks you guys.
Love you
so
guys.
much.
make
Yeah,
yourself
love you
available
too.
when we'll do this again sometime.
Yeah,
Okay.
for sure.
Tomorrow?
Exactly.
No kidding.
Okay.
Good
Thanks.
night,
All right.
everyone. And thanks
Yeah,
again.
take care, everybody. Thanks so
Cheers.
much, Gary. Thank
Okay.
you.
Yeah.
See
You're
you.
awesome. Okay.
Wow, that was so much fun.
Oh, that was so
Yeah.
much
You know
fun.
what's good about it? So we didn't have to talk the whole time.
Yes.
No, I mean
No, that was awesome.
So I mean, your questions just keep coming and coming in the back. You know, they keep coming up, and then you go, I want to ask that, and then you forget, and another question comes, and it's like, anyways, I hope that people who watch tonight,
I hope they enjoyed as much
learn
as we
something.
did.
And
'Cause
you know, if you didn't, you got to go to Ringo's Beatle era kits.com.
that's right. That's right. Check that out for sure.
Yeah, and or look up Gary Astridge. Just Google Gary Astridge or Ringo Beatle Kits.
Yeah.
And his website will come up. And I spent some time with it this week, and it's really clean and simple and easy to read,
It is.
and lots of information that was really just sort of like, you know, photographic evidence of the one snare that he played mostly through the like one snare was on most of those Beatle recordings. It's pretty pretty cool stuff. So
Yes.
anyways, what else do we got here tonight
Yeah,
before
well,
we wrap up?
we just want to thank Gary Astridge again for coming on the show. Yeah, it was amazing, and I want to thank our sponsor, Field Fox Gardens and Cookery. Order that lasagna at fieldfox.ca, and just please subscribe and follow. If you enjoyed this show, maybe you'll enjoy other shows. So please follow and check out No YXE on YouTube and on Facebook, and yeah, that's really it. We are also going to promote a couple of other No YXE shows right now. Be sure to tune into YXE Sports Podcast. That's Mondays at 6 p.m. Let's Chat is Tuesdays at 11 a.m. And Sportsline is Thursdays at 12:15 p.m. In Focus YXE is Thursdays at 7 p.m. and Slow TV YXE is Sundays at 10 a.m. And if you're an artist and you have something coming up that you want to talk about, then just email us at the Green Room YXE at noyxe.com. And that's it. That's our show for tonight. And we hope that you guys have a great week. We're on next Wednesday at 7 p.m. We hope to see you then.
Yeah, one thing though, there's a great Canadian musician who's in the hospital tonight.
Yes.
Canadian great jazz trumpet player named Al Stanwyck.
That's right.
And we're sending out love and
lots of love for him to
Al
get
tonight
for him to get better. He's
to
gonna
get
he's
better.
gonna get better.
So if you can,
Yes. Send up
send
some
love,
prayers.
send some love out to Hamilton, Burlington area, and
Yes.
and
Yes.
you did great.
It was an awesome, uplifting, wonderful show. So it was a lot of fun. Okay, everybody. Keep rocking and rolling. We'll see you next Wednesday.
Peace out.